85% plus of our customers now are acquired via mobile.
What people have to realize now, well, you don't have to do anything. I hope if you're my competitor, you don't, because good for you. This is your office to your customer, right?
Yes.
Now, we all talk about this thing and mobile. You're so sick of hearing about it.
Yeah.
But this is your digital office.
100%. Welcome to Self-Storage Income, and today we are talking about how technology has changed the self-storage industry. Technology has had a huge impact on the way we do business, the way customers interact with us, and how we manage our business. So today we have Lance Watkins with us, and he is the founder and CEO of Tenant Inc. How's it going, man?
Well, thank you.
You have been in the self-storage industry for a long time, and you have also been in the tech side of self-storage. So you've seen how tech has evolved in this industry, both on the customer side as well as the operator side, us. Walk us through what has happened within self-storage, particularly as it comes to technology.
Nothing. That's kind of the problem. So, you answered the question really in yourself, and you broke into what are our customers doing, and that's really what's driven the divide from where our customers are and how our product interacts with them. So the evolution of tech has really been a catch-up in our industry, at least in its past probably 10 or 15 years, in that what we've been trying to do is get our product up to meet their expectations. Customers have a certain expectation of how they're doing business today, whether it's, all tech people love to flash this thing, but this is just kind of how all of us do business now today. But they also have the expectation of things being easy to use, easy to understand, transactional, definitive, available 24 hours a day. And the storage industry was built without a foundation to support what the customer was looking for, or when we get into deeper areas of technology that have to do with AI or business analytics, machine learning, data studies, the infrastructure wasn't capable of supporting that. So it was broken from supporting a customer. It was broken from supporting more sophisticated business practices. So that's really what drove me into the space, is that I didn't feel like I could serve the customer. And I felt like ultimately, if I could serve a customer better than the competitors, I'd have a great product or a great service. And that's what's driven me to found Tenant, as well as some of the other companies that I've been involved with in the past.
Now, it's interesting how I think you hit it right on the head. We're trying to catch up with customers, meaning the landscape in which our customers live on, they consume, how they work within the economy has changed rapidly. And self-storage, for the most part, has always lagged. This is a problem, even after, you're talking in 2015, we were still buying storage facilities that primary way of advertising was the Yellow Pages. Now, when you look at this, I think it really comes in a few types of waves, right? We talk about the internet and the customer going on and consuming on the internet, and how we are finding them, how we're bringing them in, how we're closing them. But then it also has to do with, like we talked about, managing our business. So this business of self-storage, and how tech has really changed how we go about that, or how we look at that. Why don't we start first with the customer side and talk about that customer acquisition and that customer facing side. When you look at the ecosystem for a storage operator on that customer facing side, what are the key things that you think of, and what has changed in the last 15, 20 years?
Real estate in general has lacked in tech. We saw probably some of the first disruption in hospitality then obviously heavily in retail. It completely, completely destroyed retail, so to speak, or what we used to think of retail. What I study from a perspective of what tech can do for our company, for our operations, for our customers, many times they interact. They're closely coupled together. The foundational elements required within your systems have to be built with that in mind. And that's why self-storage is so far behind. All of the systems out there were built in a day when the internet really didn't exist. The idea of e-commerce was certainly crazy. Like, who would rent storage online? Who would want to do business online? And then all of the systems and tools really required to make that effortless didn't even exist in the day. So the systems weren't able to handle that capacity. But the easy way to approach a technical problem is to look into your business, whether it's operational or customer. Look at the customer, be a customer. I think if all of us in the self-storage industry, for the most part, were our own customers, we'd be pretty disappointed compared to what we're used to now within other companies that we deal with. But look at those operational and those customer flows and go, what are the pain points? And figure out, how do I smooth those out? How do I knock those pain point down? How do I improve those scenarios? And that could be something as simple as finding a property that's close to you, understanding that it fits your need, interacting and selecting the space, understanding that you have the right space, and as quickly as possible moving into that space and being granted all of the components you need to interact with our service. And that may be, signing contracts, that may be using your mobile device, that may be ID verification, right? So that could be facial recognition, that could be ID verification, comparing the two. That may be enrollment in various services that we use or upsells, and doing it correctly where we're also making it easy for the customer, but since we are creating legal contracts, we're doing it correctly and reducing liability. When you start to evaluate all of those elements of running our business, or how our customers use this, you see the holes that we have. And unfortunately, in the past, what I did and what everybody has done, and most people, 95% of the market is still doing, is they are really bolting little components on top of a broken ecosystem. It would be like all of us wanting to build a 5-story storage building, but we're starting on a landfill that hasn't been reclaimed.
Yes.
And so at some point, we're going to go up, and it might only be the second floor and the thing's going to sink. We might get to the 4th floor, the thing's going to fall over. And that's what we've been doing.
And in fact,
this industry.
the more you bolt on, the worse it actually gets.
The worse it gets, the more
worse
likely it is to
experience
fail.
it is, the more problems you have. Yeah. And as a customer, that seamless process it is felt so easily online.
And so it's so obvious too.
It's so obvious.
It's so obvious.
When it's not good, it's bad. And we don't have a tolerance as customers for not having a seamless process. In fact, you look at things like the Amazon experience, the one click, and how, it's just this, I'm here to buy something, I want to get it, I need it now. And for self-storage, that acquisition of the customer, that's principally how they're moving. I need this product now. It is to some point a commodity. So the ease of accessing that customer and closing that customer comparative to other competitors in your market is a huge advantage.
Yeah, we all went to Amazon early on, I think, because it was a good deal. And then we all joined in on a SaaS product called Prime, and I'll call it a SaaS product, but it's a membership service that reoccurs. It's a huge revenue source for Amazon. But we went there because it then made it easier for us to do business. I'm sure I'm crazy, but I actually now will use Amazon in times where I actually know sometimes I am potentially paying more for it, just because it is convenient. I trust it. I believe it's going to show up. I know what to expect. I'm experiencing that with Uber right now. I'm using Uber a lot for family and for events and various things. And there are times where, you know, the ride to the airport used to be $8 and it's $54 like it was the other morning. But the convenience factor, I'm willing to do it
100%.
because it's very simple and it's very easy to use.
And, you know, 85% plus of our customers now are acquired via mobile. And
It's the only game in town.
the only one. It's really hard to.
I love calling people out. I'm going to call somebody out, and I won't use his name because I actually don't know his last name. I only know his first name because somebody told me and it was my father's name. But I watched a facility being built in Encinitas recently, and as storage operators, we all envy like home run locations. Like we're almost pissed off, right? We're like, really, that bastard? Like, like you got that deal, right?
You got it.
So I'm watching this facility being built, and I'm creeping in there every chance I get. I'm like, oh, he's going subterranean. Oh, he's going up. He's going to go into the hill. So anyway, he literally probably has one of the best locations I've seen a storage facility built on for the last 10 years. Like Ray Charles could find this place, right? And so, and it's a pretty facility, other than the ugly door. He has the same ugly door color I have on my facilities. It is the worst possible choice. Other than that, it's a beautiful facility. It's got a beautiful office. The thing has wine storage, right? It's right there at Olivehane and Rancho Santa Fe is the market, but it's right on the main drag. It's nothing but rooftops and retail. It's Shangri-La. And he opens. Clearly, there are no laws in Encinitas because I have never seen so many open signs, so many come on in dolls, so many flags, so many banners. The entire front of the property is covered. It looks like the cheapest car lot you have ever seen in your life, right?
Yeah.
And this is a facility where it's going to lease up practically no matter what.
Yeah.
And so, of course, you know, the first thing I think about it, I'm like, this guy may be brain dead online, because who in today's world would do this in this location to this advertising? I mean, this guy is stuck in 1988, maybe, right?
Yes.
So, of course, I get out my phone and I try and find him. That was a difficult exercise, right? But I did find him, and his website was such a piece of crap, right? I mean, it just sucked. And I knew it was going to suck, right? And what people have to realize now, well, you don't have to do anything. I hope if you're my competitor, you don't, because good for you. But this is your office to your customer, right? And we all talk about this thing and mobile. You're so sick of hearing about it. But this is your digital office.
100%.
And this guy spent an incredible amount of money building a beautiful facility in a home run location with a beautiful office. And this thing is so bad that you just almost don't want to do business with him.
Yep. And that's where, you know, the office, as we've referred to in the past year, the value proposition isn't at a self-storage door that you roll up. It's in the office. Well, we talk about the value proposition is done online today to 85% of all customers. Even if I see it when I'm driving down the street, if I'm driving down the road and I see a location and I'm like, oh, I need to rent there, driving by, how do I find it? I go online to look it up, even though I saw it on there. It's such an integral part of our business that has been a hard shift. Now, let's talk about the internal management. How has technology changed the way that storage operators, that we do business?
Poorly. Very few people are embracing all of the technology that's available out there. Very, very few people. And it's...
Why?
If I were to take the REITs out of the discussion, I probably could count on my two hands the number of storage companies in America that really have an IT department.
Yeah.
You know, how many engineers, anybody that's watching this, how many of you have software engineers in your company? How many of you have legitimate IT departments? And I'm not talking about a kid that can hook up a router. I'm talking about like what a a very successful business worth the value. Your portfolio might be 50, 100, a million, 500, a billion, who knows, right? How many of you really have an IT department, a legitimate IT department? They don't. They don't have the ability to go out and find the services to make it more attractive or more functional to operate or attract the customer. That's the first problem. The second problem is you decide, like I have about a 90 store operator coming in tomorrow that is all of a sudden, I mean, this is a guy that can barely text. But now he's going to get into tech and he's going to hire data analysts. So he's going from zero to I'm going to hire data analysts.
Yes.
Big mistake, right? That's a big jump.
Yes.
Wants to hire 2 data analysts. In fact, I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about it tomorrow. But what most people are missing, even if you have the desire and the entrepreneurial spirit, and you recognize that you can probably serve your customer better, manage your business better with the use of technologies that already exist, you're going to get that stuff home and not be able to use it. It's not going to plug into your systems. And getting access to your data in a way that can feed these systems, and then it can come back in a usable fashion that works, is nearly impossible in this industry.
So when you talk about your system, when you say it needs to plug into the system, it needs to be able to achieve, pull, and push data, what system are we talking about?
So really, in my opinion, the source of truth for the business we're in of self-storage as a service, leasing space out, is what we call point of sale systems, property management systems, facility management. They have all sorts of acronyms, but we know them as PMSs generally, right? Everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? That's the source of truth. That is the data that has to be open. That's also the data that needs to be protected. And I'm not talking about cyber security protection, because I think that's just generally accepted, that you want to be a good housekeeper of your data because bad things can happen. What I mean is in protected as in the source of truth being that the day we do business with a customer, we're given a certain data set that connects us to that customer. Everything we do from a business perspective going forward, from a legal perspective, is tied to that data set. It's very possible to interact with other systems that don't respect that or don't think that you own that data, and you do own that data as a storage operator, and it can get corrupted. It can be a real bad situation where maybe your access control system thought it better to update phone numbers and email addresses in their system, and it somehow overwrites, but it's not accurate information, and now you're going through a lien process and you're contacting people incorrectly. Yeah, that's just one idea of protecting your data, right? And
the functionality of these things it's everything to that self-storage person. And so if the functionality,
the source of truth.
It's the source of truth. And in order to optimize your business, you don't optimize the business without your operating arm or your operating system. Now, the operating system is, we find that those, as operators, we can only do so much. And that was some constraints that we ran into early on that actually led us to meeting you with when I wanted to answer questions about my customers and the data that we had, although we were unable to because we weren't able to pull our data from our own system to analyze it, to work with, to change our company to operate better and more efficiently.
Yeah, I made a change years ago with a system because I wanted to build my own call center. Back in the day where you had to have 100 stores, we had 18 stores at the time, wanted to build our own call center and couldn't get the data in a way that made sense to serve the customer. So we switched to another system who worked with us on APIs, and it wasn't pretty, but it was way better than what we had. And so that's what the decisions we made. We also, we also really hurt ourselves in this industry. And, and the, the normal storage operator, if they managed their life like they managed their business, they'd probably all be blind because they would try to find the LASIK eye surgeon that offered their service for 50 cents, right? And so what we've created within this industry is a real lack of services and good products because we've been really bad customers and we have not recognized the value
Yes.
of a system that can double my rents, perhaps, from if I was going to, on my own, I was going to get a 5% NOI bump. I got to a 7 or 9% NOI bump. If I were going to be able to reduce services in the store by taking a lot of those repetitive things I talked about and automating them, what's the value there? If I were able to close more business when a customer puts their hand up and says, "Hey, I'm in the need for I'm in the market for space," and my system does that better, would I be better off? Would I make more money? Right? And the answer is yes. And a perfect example of something that when I got into call centers, the VoIP phone was just starting to come around. They were fairly expensive. The brain damage to put a VoIP system in your office was such a big decision, and we labored over it, and the costs, and we're gonna have to teach everybody, and all these buttons, and do we have internet, and can we get bandwidth, and blah, 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 right? It was just a huge labor decision. Now we all have these phones sitting on our desk that a blue cable plugs into, and they're a commodity. If I can change that phone and get one more rental a year out of that phone, I made money by unplugging it and taking that phone and throwing it in the trash can and putting a new one in. But the thought of doing that is just like crazy time. Like, geez, I spent $150 for that phone. It's got to last me 20 years.
And I think that's the big problem that we've had with technology in the self-storage space is this. The lack of value placed on it by the majority of operators created a situation in which the industry didn't demand certain things. Now, that wasn't everyone. Certain operators adapted technology and
lack
their
of understanding.
performance exploded in comparison to other operators.
Well, there's something happening in the industry right now. There's a major shift in the industry, and all of you are going to see it. We have seen obviously more money come into the industry. We all think about the big private equity funds coming in, the KKRs, the Blackstones, and blah 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 blah. Right? Like, if every one of us meet somebody with $1 billion every week that wants to spend it in the storage industry, big deal. What you're not paying attention to are all of the new smaller operators that you've never heard of that have 50, 100, 200 stores.
Yeah.
People you've never heard of in cities you never imagined that they're headquartered. And what's most fascinating about those are the people I meet all the time. And you got to ask yourself, why? Why am I meeting all of these new, younger, more progressive operators? And it's because they don't care how you've done business. In fact, they look at the opportunity is because of the way you do business.
Yes.
And they don't even blink at building on top of a tech platform. In fact, that's what they demand because they recognize the value. A lot of them actually come from tech backgrounds. A lot of them made money in tech, and now they've decided to get in storage. They sort of sat down and said, I want to be in a business that accomplishes these 5 things, and storage was a good fit, and off they go, and they're building portfolios. All of those people are going to lead the way, and all of the incumbents are going to fall woefully behind. And the scary thing about tech is that if you fall behind, you're really behind. You don't make it. You don't make it up. It's not. I mean, I remember hearing
tech companies.
I remember hearing the CEO of the largest company in the world sit on a stage a number of years ago before he retired, and he had the guts to say, you know, we don't really do much with tech. We just sort of watch everybody, and then if we see something, maybe we'll do something about it. It was about 2 years later that their main investor explained to him that they're going to have a new board over that attitude, right? And the reason is that the investor was smart enough to recognize that to catch up is very difficult. And if anybody doesn't understand what I'm saying, imagine that none of you out there, or not none of you, just imagine some of you out there never had a website. And today you decided, I'm going to have a digital office, right? I'm going to have a digital mobile office, right? And you started from scratch today. How many years and how many mistakes would you make with all of the best advice that you could possibly get, with all of the best consultants that you could possibly hire, with all the money that you possibly could spend? How many mistakes would you make? A lot. A lot. And so it's a process, and you will make mistakes.
Well, technology like physical products is infrastructure. It's layered on, it's cemented in, and it grows in value with time, just like physical products. So when you're late to the game, you're trying to build on top of infrastructure that you have to create, isn't verified or known within the ecosystems that we all have to work. And so your impact is throttled. It's pulled back within the internet. You don't have that open runway. And those are measurable results. And I think, you know, over the last 10 years, even a lot of people that may be watching it says, you know, I'm doing great and I don't have to worry about that. It's easy to do great when the market makes you. Yeah. It's easy to do great when there's just so much demand, because we've been in very weird times over the last decade that you don't need to do a lot and your properties fill up and you can even raise rents. The problem is those things don't last forever.
Are they filling up with the right customers? Are you raising rents
rental
the right
rates,
amount?
exactly.
Are you buying the next customers at the right rate?
Yep.
You know,
you could have a 30% less revenue than the one down the street. And then once occupancy starts to hit and vacancy starts to hit and you get hit with vacancy, now you are trying to play catch up where 85% of your customers aren't.
How long does it take to really understand reputation management? And in a market like this where there's no space available, you kind of get away with a weak reputation. In the market that we'll probably be seeing soon, when it'll be more competitive, that may be a bigger thing, 100%. Right? When we start our steelhead trips, right? Mm-hmm. If we get on the river late and 4 boats have already gone past us, yep. What's our morning look like?
Oh yeah, you've missed a huge portion of the day. It's just gone. They've already got it.
We're fishing used up water.
Yep, right? Exactly. There's so much going on in the tech space, both on the consumer side that we have to keep up with and meet with the consumers where they're at, but also internally from the operations standpoint. We've mentioned revenue management. We've talked about your overall reputation management online, things like domain authority, website, and on the customer side, it's the usability of those things. And we're experiencing the tech and the physical world coming together, and the merger of these two worlds is the difference for not only those performance, but who will last and who will not. It's really easy to get away with it in good times when we've all been spoiled, but that changes quickly, and a lot of people are waking up to that today.
And you know, I do eat my own dog food, and you know, there's an electronic lock right there on the door. You and I partnered in a facility in Reno. We were one of the very early adopters with electronic locks, and I knew it was going to be rough, right? That first product was rough. I don't remember. It was over $250,000 we spent. Yeah. on that, and I was the driver with the partnership and telling them we need to do this. And what I knew is that if I didn't start finding the strengths and weaknesses of the product, I couldn't get that time back. And that's to the message I was delivering earlier, that if you wait, if you continue to be a laggard, which most of you are, I mean, it's just a reality. A lot of real estate is. It's not just storage operators, but a lot of commercial real estate investors, owners, operators are laggards in the tech space. It's very difficult to get back. I know that I would still use electronic locks on products going forward. I know what to expect. I know the strengths and weaknesses. Many of things I've been able to improve on, and I'll continue to improve. And ultimately, they'll probably be like that phone with the blue cable. They'll probably be a better product, maybe by the same company, maybe by a different company. But it's pretty critical, just like answering a phone or communicating with a customer is pretty critical. Allowing access into our space or denying access into our space, all at the right times for the right reasons, is a real critical part of running our space. And technology is moving into that incredibly quick. I think it will be, up there with I don't know, the seriousness that we think about our web and our PMS. It's going to be that important to how we run our business. But I was willing to put a lot of money in early on.
I couldn't agree more. And for a lot of people that may not be able to see the actual symptoms or causes of tech and both of these sides of our business, the easiest way to see the change in what's gone on is the rapid consolidation. Consolidation was happening, it was going on, but I think me as well as others, it really took me by storm at the speed and the rate at which new players came in, they could buy up, and this industry's been consolidating.
Yeah.
And that has been primarily fueled through technology.
Yeah.
And it will change, it has changed, but in the next 5 years, this industry will be extraordinarily different than it is today, and it is already extraordinarily different from just 5 years ago. It's moving so fast.
It's going to consolidate much more. Tech is going to be huge in that consolidation. I know there's people that disagree with me on this. I wrote a white paper years ago called Cabs, Cubes, and Corn. But the concept of the paper was that we are a product that's a commodity. We're a need-based product that's interchangeable in the customer's mind, which is really the definition of a commodity, right? This bag of beans versus that bag of beans. That 10 by 10 on that corner versus that 10 by 10 on that corner. It's a need-based service. And if you look at commodities, consolidation is always in those spaces, because those are the differentials that create the margins to operate them or serve the customer better. And so we're without a doubt in a product that's consolidating quickly. There's huge advantages to size and tech and access to capital. And I mean, it's not just operations, not just tech. There's a lot of elements there, right? And so, what do we do as independent operators? The first, it's funny, we were just trading messages with one of the Burnhams. One of the big meetings that I had was with one of the Burnham Storage Mart 10, 12 years ago, about a quarter mile from here. And we sat down. At the time, I had 20 stores, something like that, 18 stores, I don't remember. Chris had 180 stores. He was the largest independent guy in the world. I was a nobody with my 18 stores, but we both sat down for about 8 hours in a room and recognized that scale was going to eat both our lunches. He knew he couldn't compete. Yeah. He knew it. I knew I couldn't compete. And we decided that if we couldn't figure out a way to scale, we were going to get run over. And that was one of the, starters to putting a lot of companies together in what at the time was store local. But it was really a scale decision back then, and very few operators had the ability to check their ego at the door in those days that were 100+ stores that didn't, that were able to recognize that it was going to be difficult to compete. 100-store operators were the smartest guys in the room. They were the top 10, right, private guys that we all see. That most are gone, right? If you think about consolidation, look at that list. Pull one of those lists from 6-7 years ago and look at it, and look and they're gone. There aren't very many big operators left that aren't private equity. And I'll take Storage. I mean, you look at the investor list in StorageMart, right? I'm not even calling that really a private company. When you look at a Walton and a Gates and a Country, and I mean, those are big players. The private equity companies that are in our space could buy Public Storage tomorrow, right? I mean, there's some big players in there. Take those out of there, and then look at what's left. Right now, a good 40-50 store operator is a big thing, and the REITs are going to have to grow to solve their returns for their investors. One-off doesn't work, so now they're pressuring down to those sizes. So if you're in one of those sizes and you're a good market, I wouldn't be so concerned about the cap rates. If you want to sell, you're gonna make a lot of money. 100%. You're still gonna have
a lot of the consolidations that's happening, that is the playbook. We're buying up all of them one-off to sell them to the REIT, because they can't do it efficiently. We can do all the work, and the spread is tremendously valuable. And they are doing this because they can utilize technology that is coming down to them that only the biggest players had 10 years ago. And so it fuels this cycle that's going on.
There's another dirty secret happening in the industry right now, that these new players, there's a lot of consistency in a lot of the new players that are coming in. And one is they're really good at raising money. Two, they're really good at building portfolios. No magic there. They're spending a lot to buy those portfolios. Three is that to raise the money and run the portfolios, they're using a lot of remote management styles for cost and more central operations. And then four is they've got an exit on them that is maybe underwritten more like a traditional product. But here's what's interesting: these larger portfolios are really they're being designed and built for an exit.
Yes,
that's the plan.
That's the plan.
Okay, so tell me how Life, Extra, Cube, Public, NSA. Tell me how they go buy 100 stores, 200 stores, whatever 50 stores. I don't give a shit, right? Whatever the portfolio is. Tell me how they go buy that portfolio that doesn't have an office at a store, or if it does have an office, it's not designed to be manned or teamed full time. And how do they fit that into their ecosystem?
They can't.
They can't.
They can't, and they won't.
Well,
they don't need to, because the other ones right now don't.
So they're going to have to grow. They're going to have to figure out. Now, here's what I would pay attention to if I were out there in TV land, is they're going to have to evolve to be able to absorb that market. One, they know that they need more efficiencies in operating their own business. Two, they know that there are thousands and thousands of target opportunities like that. So you're going to get further behind, and they're going to step it up.
Yes,
they're going to invest hundreds of, they're doing it already. They're already doing it. Hundreds and hundreds of millions into solving those problems. And it's not just software, guys. There's a lot to that process. And they're going to set up, and they're going to start buying those portfolios because they need to grow. And when they do that, they're going to start that process of learning that we just talked about. How does an electronic clock work? How does an unmanned or a remote managed operation? They're gonna start going through that painful learning process, and 4 or 5 years down the road, they're gonna be really good at it.
Yes.
And are you gonna be able to compete against that? No.
And, store local, as well as tenant, it's driving primarily to solve these problems. It was this idea that the single operator, it needs to have these tools to compete, to not just compete, but to thrive. And it's been so interesting how much of the business is trying to convince the people that need the tools that they actually even need the tools. And I think that that's changing rapidly, that they're going to start, when times aren't as good, to realize I need more tools to compete and to do more through necessity. But these are the types of tools that allow these independent operators to survive and not have to sell out, not have to make an exit. And that's powerful.
There's we had a team fly in that's in the office behind me right now, maybe somewhere walking by, I don't know. 60 store operator, 60 something stores, I don't know, but newer operator, one of these new portfolios I'm talking about, they're onboarding their stores. Yeah. And they've invested as well. I mean, that they're and they're looking at it, they're going, this is the way to operate our business. Why wouldn't we want to participate in this? Tomorrow there's a 90 store operator in here. Yes. That same thing, right? Invested and setting the onboarding schedule. And that one's in 3 states. I forget, the first one's in 7 or 8 states. I don't know. The smaller one's in more states, which is more of a common pattern today, right? It's by micro, as you say it, right? By where the market makes sense, understand how to operate it. The technology has been there for a long time. It hasn't been available to us because our systems aren't accepting of it, and the foundations for them don't really take it well. So even if, we can take our data and etch it on a stone with a tablet and a hammer and a chisel and hand it to somebody and they can read it and put it into something, it doesn't solve anything, right? Yeah. It just wastes a bunch of time. So they have to be efficient, they have to be fast, and they have to be vertically integrated, and that's where we differentiate ourselves in the entire, but really the entire prop tech market, but certainly real estate, absolutely, in storage. We dominate that in a vertically integrated system. With VSaaS is actually a term now, but that means that with a vertically integrated system, it's ultimately very expandable, right? You are able to come in and make adjustments and change operational tools or interchange tools, because there is no way that one provider can always win in every area. So as new products or new services come to market that serve our facilities or our customers or both, we've designed a system that's ready for that. And it could be something as big as driverless cars that'll disrupt our industry. We're ready for it today. If Tesla said tomorrow that you can now put your golf clubs in the trunk and send it to the storage facility, we'd be able to interface with Tesla. Now, would you have to have somebody there to remove the golf clubs? Yes.
Yeah. But you could adapt.
You could adapt.
And that's the biggest thing is infrastructure that as our customers and industry and other third parties that we don't even know may exist out there adapt and change this ever-changing landscape that we're in, we have the ability to. And prior, that it has not existed and put you at the whims of falling behind or being consolidated. And that doesn't have to happen anymore. Well, Lance, thank you so much for coming on here, for talking with us about technology, what's going on. We're doing another video that we're actually talking about your products, and what's being offered. So you guys can check that out. Hummingbird and Tenant Inc. Everything Tenant Inc. is doing is absolutely incredible. So thanks for coming on here, and thanks for walking us through kind of where we're at and what technology is doing in this space.
Thank you.